So in this video, we're going to look at constructing a regular pentagon. Okay, now this is a very similar set of steps to when we were drawing a hexagon. Okay, the only difference is that the angle on the outside changes, and that means that we end up having one less side. Okay, so what we know when we're drawing a polygon of any type is that we have to figure out what the angle on the outside is, and we know that we find that by dividing 360 degrees by the number of sides, and in this case it gives me 72 degrees. Okay, so for a pentagon, the outside angle will always be 72. You don't need to remember that, you just need to remember that you always make sure to divide 360 by the number of sides. Okay, and that will then help you to remember that. What we have for drawing this then is, as I say, very similar to when we were drawing a hexagon, except this time we have to use our protractor. Okay, so with our hexagon we could use a 60-degree set square, which is very accurate, but now we're going to be using our protractor, which is slightly less accurate, and there's a very common mistake that people can make in this, which I'm going to talk about here now. So if I just zoom in here, okay, so let's get right into this. Okay, so what we have here is that we said that we needed 72 degrees on the outside. Okay, so 72 degrees. And what we want to do is to make sure that the outside angle here, so the angle between here and here, is 72 degrees. So it's really important that we don't make a mistake with this angle. Now what you'll see here is that they have a pencil here that has 72 degrees being drawn on it. So there's 72 degrees here, which is perfect. Okay, but the mistake that people make is that they can put 72 degrees over here. Okay, because they go straight to this, they see 70 and they just think 72. Okay, but in this case, if we were to do that, that would end up being 68 degrees. Okay, which is obviously not what we want. So what we have to just make sure that we do so that we don't make that mistake is we need to count up from 0 to find our 72. So what we would do is we'd start at 0 down here. I'd say 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 72. Okay, and that's my point. Okay, so if you count it up, it takes very little time. It's just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 72. Then you'll get it on the right side every time. But if you don't do it like that, there's always a chance you could put it on the wrong side, and then you end up having a pentagon that's the wrong size. Okay, and I'll explain in a second how you know whether or not you'll have made that mistake or not. So when we do it, first of all we draw our base. So our base would be in here at 60 millimeters just for this example. So my base would go in. Then we would measure our 72 degrees on each side, okay, and on the other side to be counting up. Make sure that it's the outside angle. So it's always this angle here that we want to be 72, okay. So 72 and 72. Whoops. So they should both be 72. And what we then do is that once we have that, is we draw just light lines in up at our angles. So what you'll see here is that if we go back here and let's just put in a light line here. So I get a light line coming up through that. Doesn't matter how long it is because it's a light line. And a light line coming up through that. And again, it doesn't matter how long it is because it's a light line coming up at 72 and 72. Next thing we do is we get our compass again and we take the measurement of the base. Again, just in case you made a mistake with it. And really the most important thing is that each one of the sides is the same. So we take that distance, so 60 millimeters here. We take it and we just swing it up onto the side and onto the side here. So you put the point of it at 2 to find the point 3. And you put the point of the compass at 1 to find a point 5. Okay, so that means now I have 3 sides that are exactly the same length. And then finally, to finish it, make sure you keep the same length on your compass. Put the point of your compass at 3 and swing. And put the point of your compass at 5 and swing, and that will give you then your pentagon. Okay, so the way that you will know if you've made a mistake with your angles here, okay, so if you've put 72 on the wrong side down here, what will happen is that the top point, okay, would end up being much lower. So if I was to put in what it would look like if you were to have made a mistake, is that everything would end up looking much flatter. So your pentagon would end up looking more like this. And what you'll see here is that it's quite flattened down, and these two sides are not the same length as the other ones. Okay, so just bear that in mind, that your 72 degrees, that's really the biggest, most important thing when it comes to drawing a pentagon, is to make sure that your 72 degrees is where you need where your 72 degrees should be, and not at 68 degrees. Okay, so that's just by counting up. And then just using your compass then to find the rest of it, making sure not to change the distance on your compass when you're drawing it.